Mdluli and his co-accused Mthembeni Mthunzi will be sentenced next year on the remaining charges of kidnapping and assaulting Oupa Ramogibe in 1999. And we talk about this story now with reporter Chriselda Lewis, who's been covering that story for a while. Chriselda, very good evening to you. So, was this a surprising turn of events?
Absolutely surprising turn of events, Tippy. So we had gone to court today for sentencing arguments in this matter, and quite a surprise. It seems the state and the defence have basically agreed prior to the sitting at the High Court here in Johannesburg today, that the ruling of the Constitutional Court on the 22nd of October, which basically had ruled that sections of the Intimidation Act are unconstitutional. Now, this just does not apply alone to Richard Mdluli. What is quite interesting here and what is precedent-setting, Tepiso, is that this would apply to any case that has not yet been finalized. So remember, in addition to the kidnapping charges and assault charges that the former crime intelligence boss Richard Mdluli was facing, he was also convicted on 4 charges of intimidation. So all of that now has basically been overturned. But his legal woes are not over. In February next year, this is when the pre-sentencing arguments on the other matters will be addressed.
Just with regards to this finding and the fact that it limits the right to freedom of expression. Was there any explanation of what exactly this pertains to?
Not in this particular sitting, in this particular court episode, but what I can speak to is that you must recall that the SABC or any other media for that matter had not had the opportunity to speak to the Ramogibe family. And for the first time in court today, they had expressed massive dissatisfaction with what they say is a delay in this case, that hoped that today would be a finalization of this matter. And they say they hope that Richard Mdluli would be held responsible for the kidnapping and the assault of Oupa Ramogibe. In the package, which will play much later on here on The Full View, you will see the sentiment that they share. While Richard Mdluli says he welcomes this setting aside or overturning of the intimidation convictions against him, but of course it's a long way to go for him. February next year, sentencing arguments, of course, in the other outstanding matters that he was convicted on, that is of course relating to the kidnapping and to the assault as well. But I think it's really a case to watch with close eyes, because you would Richard Mdluli, the former crime intelligence boss, is quite a controversial figure. You'd also recall, Tepiso, that he was also fingered in the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture. Serious allegations were made against him relating to allegations that he misused the slush fund on luxury cars as well as expensive overseas trips. I also asked him about that as well, and he said he's still waiting for the Commission of Inquiry to call him pertaining to that. But in terms of this particular matter, a complete turn of events and precedent setting, in the sense that Richard Mdluli was able to get off the hook on the 4 convictions of intimidation on that ruling that was made by the Constitutional Court on the 22nd of October.
Has he indicated whether or not he would like to take any legal action against the state as a result of this? I know you did have a conversation with him post that.
Well, he did not indicate so. It was quite difficult, Tepisa, to engage him, because quite clearly through his legal counsel, they're aware that the case is far from over. So the less said on his part, the better. So all he could basically say to me was that he welcomed the overturning of the 4 convictions of intimidation against him. He wouldn't say anything further, and just on that little aspect regarding him being implicated at the Commission of Inquiry.
So just a quick recap, Chriselda, of what charges he faces that he still has to answer to.
You must remember, Tepiso, that Oupa Ramogibe was killed, but neither Richard Mdluli or his co-accused were found guilty of the murder of Oupa Ramogibe. So the charges that remained were that of kidnapping as well as assault. So they were found guilty on 2 charges of kidnapping as well as assault. So those are the charges that stand at the moment, following, of course, the decision by the Johannesburg High Court today to have or to overturn the convictions on intimidation. So the 4 convictions on intimidation have now fallen off completely, and next year pre-sentencing arguments will now be on the convictions relating to the kidnapping as well as the assault.
All right, thank you very much. Chriselda Lewis, SABC reporter on that story.